Welcome to Should I Read It? Should I Read It is a weekly podcast that takes a deep dive into books. I'll provide a summary of the book and tell you how the ideas in the book relate across all the books we've covered so far. Welcome to episode 39. Today we're going to look at Finish by Mr. Jon Acuff. How many projects have you started and never finished? Little bits of leftover code sitting around, half-written drafts of stories. That last shelf you were supposed to build, and still it sits like a lurking troll in the garage. Yep, we've all got some projects started and not finished. But what if all you have is stuff you've started and never finished? What if you're a chronic starter, to use Jon Acuff's term from his book Finish? Well, that's what Jon Acuff's book Finish is here to help us with, finishing some of the projects that we start. The entire book is a discussion on perfectionism and how it stops us from finishing the projects we start. Here's a quote from the book. This isn't the first lie that perfectionism tells you about goals. Quit if it isn't perfect. It examines the lies that perfectionism tells us, the ways it gets us to start something and then abandon it, the ways it tricks us into never starting because we won't hit perfect anyways. Here's another quote from the book. That's why a lot of people won't start a new goal. They'd rather get a 0 than a 50. They believe perfect is the only standard, and if they can't hit it, they won't even take the first step. A dreary sense of what's the use settles about them like a thick fog, and they think I can't fail if I don't try. Acuff runs an online course called 30 Days of Hustle, and when he has someone look at his numbers, he found that most people quit on day 2 of the course. That's the first day that life hits them, the day that they can't be perfect, which leads him to this conclusion about chronic starters. Chronic starters quit the day after perfect. I know that a few years ago, I tried to start a GitHub streak. I was going to commit code to something every day on GitHub. I got maybe 2 weeks, and then life got in the way. Did I pick back up and get a series of mini streaks? Nope. I quit, and if you looked at my GitHub profile, you'd see long swaths of time where I did nothing for public consumption, with a few days here and there that have a bunch of activity. I've quit the day after perfect as well. Perfectionism as excellence. Let's start this one with a quote. Unfortunately, perfection dies slowly. It's persistent and particularly dangerous because it masquerades as excellence. In his 30 Days of Hustle program, Acuff tells us that he asks participants to either cut their goal in half or give themselves twice as long to finish it. He does this because perfectionism masquerades as excellence. We don't just want to lose 5 pounds, we shoot for 40. We don't say we'll keep it to 2 pieces of pizza on Friday night, or say we're eating kale every meal, all the time, all week. We think we're just setting a great goal, but we're building one that is way too big to complete. We're subconsciously setting ourselves up for failure. This was also addressed in Reach. Perfectionism tells us that it should be hard. Here's how Acuff says that. Perfectionism believes that the harder something is, the more miserable something is, the better it is. Yeah, there are parts of any goal that aren't fun, but the whole thing shouldn't be one hard slog from terrible task to terrible task. You should enjoy the goals that you're aiming towards. You should get some enjoyment out of the actions you have to take to reach your goals. If you're not getting enjoyment, something is wrong. You need to start building rewards in so that you get positive feedback from the tasks you're working on. The second part of being uncomfortable with the goal is that it's hard to know if we're making good progress or if we're just doing something that's wrong for us. Here's how Acuff says it. The middle of any goal is difficult and uncomfortable. How do you know if what you're experiencing is genuine displeasure because you picked the wrong goal or just the normal frustration that comes with the middle part of a goal? Well, Finish doesn't dive deeply into how to figure this out. The Dip by Seth Godin, yes, there's a link for that in the notes. It does do this. It dives into the question deeply and provides us a great set of 3 questions to use to determine if we're going to do the right thing. Number 1 is, am I just panicking because stuff got scary? Number 2 is, who am I trying to impress? So that is a question about, does the market know me? And number 3 is, what measurable progress am I making, if any? Look for the small wins here. By looking at these 3 questions, we can get a clearer picture of how our idea is going and if we should quit or keep going. Acuff also says that perfectionism built secret rules around our lives. Here's how he says it. At the core, perfectionism is a desperate attempt to live up to impossible standards. We wouldn't play if we knew the whole game was impossible. So perfectionism promises us that we just need to follow some secret rules. As long as we do that, perfect is possible. So over the years, as you chase goals, perfectionism quietly adds some secret rules to your life. The last part I looked at, that our goals should be hard, is one of the lies that perfectionism tells us. It can also tell us stuff like this, like executives have nice luggage that they carry around. They can't have wheels in their luggage, or it's not fancy enough. That means we got to carry it. This is one of those secret rules that's just making things harder for us. The thing about these rules is that they're hard to catch and they are usually cumulative. We keep building more of these rules around ourselves until we're walled into doing little and serving perfectionism. Acuff also says that perfectionism protects our dream of self. Here's a quote from his book. This is a classic benefit of not finishing. You get to hold on to the illusion that you could finish if you really wanted to. Rather than try to find out you might not be good, you hide in the myth of maybe. Maybe you're awesome. I talked to a guy earlier this year who swore he had a great story. It involved the gun to the face and a great story of recovery. He went on a bunch about how he's going to write a great book, and he's writing it. What he really meant is that about a year prior to our meeting, he had written one chapter of it. Since then, he's written nothing. Not even blog posts talking about the journey he's still on. The deeper I dug, the more it became apparent to me that he was so convinced that it was a great story, he didn't want to hear otherwise. Now, I do believe the story is pretty awesome, but he's stuck. He's not doing the practice needed to turn it into something excellent, and he's very hesitant to hear any feedback that might change the things he thinks are awesome. He's firmly stuck in the benefits of not finishing his work because it's still perfect in his mind. Now, Acuff also has actions. At the end of each chapter, there are actions and questions you can use to kick perfectionism's ass. If you're going to read this book, take time to answer these questions. This episode of Should I Read It is brought to you by my latest book, The Art of Focus. If you're tired of running around trying different ideas and getting no traction, if you are tired of having ideas, but you never actually get to work on them, if you're just tired, then The Art of Focus is for you. It's going to give you the exact systems I've used to build my ideal life, set up my times that I can really work and get lots done in the 6 hours a day that I work most days, and test my ideas in the marketplace so that I know they succeed. You can purchase it on Amazon at curtismchale.ca/recommends/AOF. As always, our final question, should you read Finish by Jon Acuff? If you're a chronic starter, then yeah, Jon Acuff is a great book to get you off your butt and ship something for the world to see. I think you need to add accountability to it, though. You need someone to help you stick to shipping your work instead of falling back to your old patterns of striving for the elusive perfection. One other great book to read is Perennial Seller. There's a link to that review in the show notes. It looks at the struggle that does need to happen to make something stand out from the masses. It pushes you to struggle just a bit more and expose your work to others so it can get refined. Perennial Seller isn't quite the opposite of Finish, but it's a little bit more for those that are ready, fire, aim, and Finish is for the ready, 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 aim, aim, aim type. So read both. Thanks for listening to Should I Read It? To support the show, you can leave me a review in iTunes or a heart or a star in whatever podcast player you use. These help more people find the show. If you want to get more reading done, you should get an Audible membership. If you use curtismchale.ca/recommends/audible, that will help the production of the show financially.